Hello, my name is Dr. Sidney Freeman, and welcome to Saturday Soul. We're so excited that you're here today to learn about ways in which Black males and females can strengthen their relationships through the topic of covering. We have a special guest, Minister Vanderhorst, that is here with us today, and we're looking forward to a special time. So, what I would love for you to do is to share this broadcast, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. Please share it to your loved ones and friends that you believe will benefit from this topic. One of the other things that I wanted to bring to your attention is that you can go to the Liberation Movement website so that you can learn more about some of the things that we're doing. We've just launched a project that will allow us to create a book on the topic of Black theology, and so there's other projects that we have in the works related to decolonizing the Black mind, both at the elementary and at the adult level. So we got a few things going on, and we're looking forward to your support of it. Want to say welcome to Donnell, and thank you for being with us from New York. And if you're here, please put who you are and where you're watching from. We're excited to have you. Before we go any further, I would like to share with you the model that shapes and grounds the work that we do at the Liberation Movement. It's the model of Black transformation. And so at this time, what we'll do is just share this model so you can have a sense of the work of the Liberation Movement.
The work of the Liberation Movement is grounded in the Black transformation model. We believe that there is a 5-step process that will lead to the advancement of our people. These steps inform all work that we engage in. The first step is decolonization, which we define as the holistic process of letting go of colonial practices, values, and culture, adopting and returning to indigenous ways of knowing and being. In other words, a change of mindset centering African ways of thinking and living. The second step is abolition. We define abolition as being willing to fight injustice and dismantle practices, systems, institutions, and power structures. The third step is revolution. I define revolution as a fundamental change from the status quo that facilitates new ways of knowing, being, and operating. The fourth step is liberation. To be liberated is to be free from forms of spiritual, psychological, and physical oppression and captivity. The last step is sovereignty. When we say sovereignty, we are stating that we will be committed to supporting and/or establishing Black-owned and operated institutions. So, we take seriously Romans chapter 12, verse 2, where it says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Black transformation is our assignment, and we are committed to help liberate our people spiritually, socially, and psychologically through educational initiatives.
Well, I am so excited to have Minister Vanderhorst with us here today and to share with us on the topic of covering. We have him up here right now, but I want to make sure that we give him the proper introduction if we can. So if our sound engineer can pull up his introduction, that would be great. All right, Minister Vanderhorst, we're so happy to have you here and to share on this third part and final part of this series on covering. Thank you so much for being with us.
Listen, I'm still the undisputed happiest man in the world. Yes, sir. 41
Yeah.
years now I've been wearing that crown since the day I got married. But listen, I am ecstatic about being here to share with the audience of the liberation movement.
Mhm.
First of all, I just want to thank you, Doctors Sidney and Linda Freeman, for following the spirit to design and develop the liberation movement. I believe that you are carrying on very important work of Black institution building, where our cultural energies should be directed for the present and future generations. So thank you very much. And we are also getting a glimpse. Don't miss this one. We are also getting a glimpse into the purpose of your marriage.
Mm.
Second, it has been my honor to share my teachings here on Saturday Soul on covering. I take seriously my ongoing responsibility to share revelation, provide social critique, Black relational enhancement, as well as the design and development of social and relational frameworks that can be added to the plethora of Black social theories that lend to holistic health and well-being of Black people. So having said that, in an effort to bring this covering series full circle, I want to quickly give a brief synopsis of the first two parts of covering that took place on Saturday Soul in February and March. And then I will hone in on this last part. And I do encourage those who miss part one and part two to go back and listen so that you can get the full context of this covering series. Here we go. In part one, I began with the Genesis narrative where Ha-Adam, see, that was the name of both man and woman, Ha-Adam, ate from the forbidden tree, and the realization of their fateful choice resulted in them hiding. The Creator came into the African Edenic garden and called out, Ha-Adam, where are you? The man said, we hid because we were naked. Please understand that our choices will always expose us, whether for good or bad, right or wrong, truth or error. So when the Creator asked Ha-Adam, who told you you were naked? Did you eat from the tree I told you not to? The man said this, the woman you gave me, she gave me to eat. And in his response, two things immediately surfaced. Number one, he blamed his Creator for the woman he was given. And second, he inevitably left his wife uncovered. Now, this is what I believe is the beginning of the betrayal of Black men leaving Black women uncovered. Now, I'll say this for the last time. I said it in the first two parts, but I'll say it again. It matters not to me how you view this Genesis narrative. You can see it as literal, metaphorical, mythological, allegorical, or however you view it. But what is undeniable is the blatant existence of a harem of behaviors such as sexism, exploitation, objectification, misogynoir, violence, abuses, trafficking, and all other dehumanizing actions that Black women and girls have and continue to suffer at the hands of males. Even our silence is violence. whenever we should speak up on their behalf and we don't. So all this is proof that they are left uncovered. And that is why my principal point, no matter how you view the Genesis narrative, is that Black women and girls have been left uncovered. Now, please understand, I took great care not to broad brush all Black males as leaving Black women uncovered. So in a one question survey that I gave to 35 Black women, I asked, do you think the Black male collective covers Black women? I read some of their responses in part 1 and part 2. I don't have time to read the rest of them today, but most of them said no. And a few of them said yes with qualifications. So in this Genesis narrative, the centering issue pertaining to covering is, get this, accountability. Man's accountability to women. This specific type of accountability, covering, is conspicuously underrated, unknown, or unlearned. For there should never be a time, a place, or a space where a Black man is not accountable to Black women and girls within reasonable boundaries and actions. Even with a sentence of life without parole, not a week should go by without a Black father writing a letter to his daughter or son to support, encourage, or give emotional stability to her growth and development. The absence of accountability usually results in the absence of covering. And sisters, if you are not covered when it is called for, then some brother or brothers are not being accountable. If he does not stand up, speak up, show up for you when he is in the room or the opportunity presents itself for him to be accountable, then you are left uncovered. So accountability is the first takeaway. In part 2, I cited real lived experiences that I now call interruptions. I will elucidate on it more in my upcoming book entitled Black Men Interrupted. But these interruptions have historically and currently impede Black men fulfilling their responsibility. See, that's the next maxim. Accountability is first for covering. Responsibility is second for covering Black girls and women. In part 2, I mentioned the onslaughts against the Black male, from enslavement to castration to lynching to American imperialistic wars that brothers were sent away to fight in, the prison industrial complex, state-sanctioned oppression and brutality, even to the daily microaggressions that Black men have to deal with. It's like cutting and everything else in between. And these traumatic interruptions are an assault on the humanity of Black men, which have resulted in gradations of our mental and physical brokenness for many Black males. And this certainly can interrupt our responsibility to cover Black women and girls. But couple this with the historical memory that many Black males have of white male history, of mistreatment of Black women and girls via rapes and cussings and beatings, which have become a learned behavior with some Black men. Pearl Cleage, in her book Mad at Miles, A Black Woman's Guide to Truth, said this: how can they hit us and still be our heroes? I'm talking about brothers, she's saying. How can they hit us and still be our leaders, our husbands, our lovers, our geniuses, our friends? The answer is they can't. Can they? And these traumatic interruptions and learned behaviors should give us pause when we take into account the societal and systemic conditions that were created and are continued to be created that Black males have to operate within, pertaining to covering Black women and girls. So covering requires accountability. Covering requires responsibility. And this leads me to the third and final point, which I believe is above all coverings, be it accountability and responsibility. Covering our Black women and girls requires willingness. Willingness. That's the third one. Black men covering Black women and girls is a conscious and deliberate act of our will. Even with the blatant societal interruptions that can throw us off center, we can will to cover them. Dr. Howard Thurman, in his book, Jesus and the Disinherited, teaches, and get this, I mean, this quotation just popped when I heard it. Dr. Howard Thurman said, life under oppression provides no excuse for, let me start again. Life under oppression provides no excuse for avoiding the path of courageous, creative integrity. Woo! I'll say it again. Life under oppression provides no excuse for avoiding the path of courageous, creative integrity. Listen, based on the unabated systemic onslaughts that come against Black males, I have Black rage. I don't leave home without it. But I have Black rage creatively. That's right. I have Black rage creatively. In my nonprofit organization, Prepare Our Youth, I channel it into advocacy and activism. I channel my Black rage as a seed planter to inform and educate and write and design and develop culturally specific interventions and trainings. I channel my Black rage creatively in my Seed Planter International LLC, which is dedicated to, uniquely for, and unapologetically about Black males. And that's where I coach and train and advocate and provide individual and group level interventions for Black males. Life under oppression provides no excuse for avoiding the path of courageous, creative integrity. So as Black men, we must be accountable. We must be responsible. And we have to be willing to cover our Black women and girls. And when I say "our," I do not speak possessively. But we must have a willingness to cover Black women and girls, no matter the sacrifice or the cost. Now, under the Sankofa spirit, I want to go back to the African Edenic garden and look at Ha-Adam, man and woman before the fall. You see, Sankofa is that African Adinkra symbol of a bird that is facing in one direction, but its head is turned and looking back toward its tail. Sankofa means we must return to the source to move forward, or it also means go back and fetch it. So we must go back to the African Edenic garden to look at man and woman before the fall, to really understand what can and should be done moving forward. In the Genesis narrative, there were no role divisions. There were no roles. There was no hierarchy, no patriarchy, no head, or the like. When you look back, it says that they were given the same responsibility. What was that? It was to dress and keep the African Edenic garden. You can find that in Genesis 2 and verse 15. So the operative word that I use and that I think it is apropos for you to understand is they had what was a complementarity. Yeah. A complementarity in the African Edenic garden. The Creator told them also to be fruitful and multiply, which takes everything into account that has to do with the purpose of marriage. Stay here a minute, because I mentioned that in my affirmation of Doctors Sidney and Linda Freeman, that the liberation movement gave us a glimpse of the purpose of their marriage. You see, my wife's brother, Stephen Patterson, said this. He says, marriage does not complete persons, marriage completes purpose. Yeah, you're going to have to marinate on that for a minute. Marriage does not complete persons, marriage completes purpose. There are so many couples, spouses, who don't have a clue as to the purpose of their marriage. And as good and as right as their marriage may be, if they don't understand or know the purpose of their marriage, they are missing a higher quality and essence of mutual fulfillment. When you know the purpose of your marriage, it is the crown, the diadem on the head of your relationship. In the African Edenic garden, there was the purpose of their marriage. Let me see how I can put this. Understanding the purpose of marriage is quintessential only when there is a covering. When covering is absent, you will not discover or know the purpose of your marriage. Because the purpose of your marriage cannot operate outside of the confines of covering. And I will just jump to say this. I have been in these past 2 series completely focusing on the black male. But I will tell you now that covering is to be reciprocal. There should be a covering of the man for the woman, and there should be a covering of the woman for the man. That's part of the complementarity that goes on in a relationship. But the purpose of the marriage, of the relationship, will not be discovered outside of the confines of covering. So they were to be fruitful and multiply. The multiplying suggests progeny, children. Being fruitful denotes a number of things that are beneficial to the health and well-being of their lives and relationship. You see, under covering with complementarity, the fruitfulness comes forth from both man and woman. I'm going to tell you something that some of you may have never heard. You can think otherwise. That's cool. But I believe, and the revelation I have received is that of the purpose of a man and the purpose of a woman. If I asked you to put in the chat or whatever, I would ask you to do that. What do you believe is the purpose of man? And what do you believe is the purpose of woman? Type it in. It's not about being right or wrong. But what do you think is the purpose? And I will share with you what I believe is the purpose of man. You see, Dr. Miles Monroe, my guy, man, he said we should understand the purpose of everything. And so years ago, I got on a personal mission to understand the purpose of whatever. Most men, maybe the majority of them, don't know the purpose of a man, much less than the purpose of a woman. And many women, maybe most women, don't know the purpose of a woman, much less the purpose of a man. So it'd be interesting what you put in. However, for time's sake, I'm moving forward. I'm almost finished. It is my belief that the purpose of man is source. S-O-U-R-C-E. Source is the purpose of man. We know that he is the source that provides the seed. The purpose of man is source. And I believe that the purpose of woman is solution. Yeah. You see, when the Creator created Ha-Adam, man, breathed the Ruach, R-U-A-C-H, the spirit, the breath into his nostrils, Genesis 2:7, and he woke up. He surveyed his environment. Whatever teachings the Creator gave him. The Genesis narrative even says that the Creator gave him the opportunity to name the animals. I can imagine that his mind hooked up with the terminal of his Creator's mind, and he named them what the Creator would have named him. That's just my premise. But something was missing. Ha-Adam, man, did not have a partner, as he noticed the animals did. And so the Genesis narrative again tells us that the Creator laid him to sleep, and from man he created woman, which then means that woman became man's solution. Yeah. To be fruitful and multiply, man could not do that on his own. She became the solution, and through her womb, with his source, his seed, humanity was brought forth. Humanity was birthed. And if you think about it, my brothers, our Black women are the solution to so many things. But what burdens me is that so many brothers call the solution a problem, their problem. And then through their actions and behaviors, leave the solution uncovered. Am I saying that the Black woman is always right? No. But I guarantee you that she is a serious solution for so many things in our lives, in our relationships, in this world. Let me move. So, the reciprocation of covering is quintessential for man to cover woman, woman to cover man. It is essential for complementarity in a relationship, and it doesn't simply have to be a marital relationship. And in that complementarity, then both of you utilize visionaries, so that you can have insight. You see, sight will tell us what's good to us. Insight can tell us what's good for us. And so therefore, everything good to us is not good for us. But to be able to have that vision, to be able to discern things, is so important. In this complementarity, both man and woman have a perception. We have an awareness of what's going on, to the point that we know what's happening in each other's life or our family's life, that we can perceive when attitudes change and behaviors change. You know that. When needs arise, you are aware of them and nothing escapes your attention. In complementarity, there is conception. And that's the beginning of a process to be able to bring things into existence. You conceive things and then work to bring them to fruition. There is the inception in this complementarity, where it is the commencement and the creating of something new, where we break out of some old traditions and risk new things for yourselves and your family. So many things happen under complementarity in this framework of covering. Let me recap. Accountability. Responsibility. And willingness are the tripartite aspects for covering. Unfortunately, there are some who are still hiding behind fig leaves, behind excuses, and so forth. But brother, you are a source. And sister, you are a solution. I want to end with something that Sister Pearl Klieg said in her book. She said, "This time, turn the ships around." This is what she said. They say when the ships pulled on the shores of Africa and the slavers came ashore to look for us, that the women were the ones who held them back, the ones who told them that it might be dangerous to go down to the water's edge. Women were the ones, they say, who encouraged them to stay home, telling them how worried they would be if they went down there with the warriors to turn the ships around, assuring them that if they just sat here by the fire with them, the white folk would probably change their minds and go away all by themselves. They say that's the reason why they didn't turn the ships around, because they thought women didn't want them to. Pearl Klieg went on to say, assuming this is correct, this is a correct presentation of historical fact, is clearly one of the greatest examples of miscommunication in all human history, and one we should avoid repeating at all costs. So let it be known that we are looking for a brother who will turn the ships around, a brother who will go into crack houses and turn the ships around, a brother who will go places where it is open season on our children and turn the ships around, a brother who will hear the screams of sisters beaten to death by a man who they say love them and turn the ships around, a brother who will hear the whimper of our babies born with AIDS and turn the ships around, a brother who will see people sleeping on the streets and turn the ships around, a brother who will gather with the warriors and march down to the edge of the sea and turn the ships around, turn the ships around, turn the ships around, and this time, turn the ships around. is covering. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Minister Vanderhorst, for this powerful elucidation of what covering is and challenging both male and female, man and woman, to help turn this ship around. And we all have our parts to play in it. So thank you so much for this three-part series that you've led. And I want to just encourage those who are watching to please enter your questions that you may have for Minister Vanderhorst regarding this topic of covering. So it's powerful, and I'm thinking about what you last said about turning the ship around. What would you say to men that may be feeling overwhelmed when you say go to the crack houses and turn it around? Don't step over those who may be laying on the street. What about those who are that are being beaten by the person that they love? Those types of things. What do you say to the men that may feel overwhelmed or ill-equipped to help turn that ship around?
Thank you for that question. I would say that it is important for us to understand the call on our lives. You see, all of us have a call on our lives. There is the career and there is the call. And usually the career is not the call. Sometimes it can be. I kind of put it this way, that our profession is for our livelihood, our call is for human good.
Mm-hmm.
And so when a brother discovers the call on his life, we'll do that for free. When we discover the call on our lives, it's like something that stands up in our brain so tall, eclipsing all other interests, that we got to do this thing, overwhelmed or not, because it is a call on our lives. So I believe that it is much more conducive when brothers operate within their call. We can't do everything for everybody.
Right.
But if we operate in our call, everybody is getting addressed as we seek to turn those ships around, because somebody will be operating in their call in the crack house or in the shelter or whatever else like that.
So to follow up with that, would you say to women who you also brought something a little new to us? You talked about women and their role in this notion of covering. Could you talk a little bit more about how women can engage in their form of covering?
In the very first part that I gave at the beginning of it, I spoke about active listening. That brothers need to have active listening, because I talked about the filters that a lot of black men listen to women through. If it's a nagging filter, it's going to one ear and out the other. If it's a disrespect filter, it's going to one ear and out the other. And I said that we have to take away our filters so that we can have active listening, you see. And so basically, I do believe that our women are our most powerful allies, not our adversaries. And they can proffer solutions that benefit us, that benefit themselves, that benefit the village in so many ways. That is a part of their covering, to offer and to posit those solutions for our health and well-being, for us to assist us in wholeness. And my definition is wholeness is brokenness repaired, not perfection. And so I believe that they have a very essential part in it as it pertains to covering. In fact, if you look at them now, so many of them are covering their families when brothers are absent.
Yeah.
You see, so they are already covering, but with that complementarity, when it's not adversarial, when they are operating in their purpose, oh my goodness, we haven't seen nothing yet, man. And I am seriously anticipating and expecting couples to come into their purpose. It's going to be powerful. More books written, more interventions created. I mean, just so much more for the holistic health and healing of Black people and relationships.
So as you said that, I was thinking about earlier when you talked about the importance of Black men, particularly in the broader family structure, that almost every day they should either write a note or do something to let their children know that they're covered, and their wives know, or significant others know, that they're covered. Can you talk about other ways? That was like a small, practical way in which, I'm thinking a young man or a man can show that he's covering his family. What are maybe some other steps that men can do to show that they're covering their family and community?
Well, very quickly, it is my belief, and I teach this, that I believe that the greatest gift a man can give his children is significance. I teach that, significance. When you see a lot of brothers and sisters, youngins out here running around, they're looking for significance, but they think they can find it in wearing somebody else's name instead of appreciating their own name, who they are, you see. So this brother should root his children in significance, that they are valuable, of their worth, of their potential, their purpose, and so forth. That's one way. I believe that every man, father, needs to have his children in a rites of passage, African rites of passage. That is a structured program, a boyhood to manhood transition and a girlhood to womanhood transition. There are male rites of passage, there are female rites of passage, there are co-ed rites of passage. I have a manual that I wrote years ago that people are using around the country as it pertains to a rites of passage. People call me all the time. Hey, my son, can you do a rites of passage ceremony for him? I mean, it sounds good, and I have never done that. I said, how can I do a ceremony and they have not gone through the passage? They don't have the knowledge or information to transition from boyhood to manhood. I do not do it. It ain't cute. They need to go through the passage. Those are the only ones that I preside over rites of passage ceremony. I believe that they should encourage summer reading for their children. They should have a summer reading book list for their children, girls and boys. One of my books is called Growing and Flowing, How to Grow Up Straight in a Crooked World. That's meant for these young people from elementary, middle school, and high school, basically. But they should have a summer reading list. It could also be a book club that they have, you see. So rites of passage, a book club. Each family should have an outreach service that they do, that family specific outreaches to community. It could be in different places, from soup kitchens to whatever, to going into senior homes and reading to the elderly or whatever. I understand COVID and things like that now, but every family ought to have a family outreach. Oh man, I got 1,000 things that can be done that are non-threatening, very cost-effective, and so forth. Yeah.
So one of the things that you threw out there, that you have a new book that's in the works or is coming out. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Black Men Interrupted. I am addressing the historical and current things that have caused interruptions in the spirit of Black men, which then impacts how we think, how we feel, and what we do. And then the body receives the collateral damage from it or whatever. I'm dealing from the inside out. Black Men Interrupted is for, as one brother said, for bank robbers and bank presidents. Whoever has had their spirit interrupted in childhood or youth, encounters, experience, Black Men Interrupted is for them. I'm going for wholeness, brokenness repaired, not perfection. And so we will address things, but it won't be the same old nuked over, warmed up stuff, because the solution orientation of it will be different. For example, I'm suggesting that every Black man sees a counselor, therapist, or somebody at least once a quarter, at least 4 times a year. Mm-hmm. Of all the stuff that we suppress and repress, we need to be talking to some qualified Black person. I'm suggesting a lot of different things that I believe will, here it is, be conducive for the healing, wholeness of our spirit, our mind, and our body. That's Black Men Interrupted encapsulated.
Well, we're excited, and we want to make sure that when it comes out that we can support it. We'll definitely put it up on our website so that people can, we'll get a link from wherever you will have it, so we can make sure that our audience can get access to it, because we want to take them on this growth process. We talked about decolonizing the Black mind going in from 2020, and we're just trying to grow them through that Black transformation process. And I think covering is a aspect of that. Before we go, and we want to encourage people to jump on Clubhouse. Clubhouse is an app that you'll find on your phone. It's both on Android and iPhones now, where you can have almost a conference call kind of conversation with individuals. And we're going to jump on that app, and you'll be able to interact with Minister Vanderhorst to ask any questions directly to him regarding this topic of covering. But with that, before we go, there was, I know you said that there's accountability in the model of covering. There's accountability, responsibility, and willingness. So it's kind of the three-part model. And then you talked about complementarity, right? Is that kind of an overarching part of the model, or is it underneath one of those aspects?
Well, it's basically it folds into all three of them, basically. If you look at the word complement, the root word, mm-hmm. where we are complementing one another. But the complementarity basically is a basic understanding of the process and practices that will occur under this covering. Mm-hmm. you see. And it is not adversarial. In fact, it is such an enhancement, of the relationship, whether it is man and woman who are single in relationship or whether they are married in relationship. But usually what is meant to be complementarity a lot of times end up conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And so, many couples are so busy putting out fires that complementarity doesn't even come into the mix, the practice, the behavior, and so forth in that relationship.
Well, I want to thank you so much again for being with us and providing us with this 3-part series on covering. I know just based on some of the feedback I've been receiving and then even in the chat that it's been a blessing to our audience. And I just want to encourage our audience again to jump on Clubhouse with us in a few moments. But thank you for being with us, and see you next month. Have a wonderful rest of the afternoon or morning.
I am the Liberation Movement.
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 I am the Liberation Movement. My name is Dr. Sidney Freeman Jr., and I am the Executive Director and founder of the Liberation Movement, which is a 501c3 organization that works with those who are liberated and seek to be liberated psychologically, socially, and spiritually through educational initiatives. To continue to provide the high-quality programming such as Saturday Soul, we need your support. Your consistent monthly investment in the movement will allow us to continue to expand on the excellent work that is already started, such as decolonizing the Black mind curriculum that is already in development. So your gifts of any size via Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal would be a blessing to the advancement of this ministry. Thank you in advance for supporting and joining the Liberation Movement.
Please remember to join Sydney, me, and our special guest today on Clubhouse at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time so we can dive deeper into today's topic. See you soon.